The official narrative is that today, Thursday, January 29th, 2026, is just another volatile day in the markets.
Mm-hmm.
You turn on the news, you see the red arrows, the conflicts overseas, political grandstanding.
Usual noise.
But the story they are selling you is that the institutions are holding, that the guardrails are still there.
That is the story. But if you sit down and actually do the math, I mean, not the politics, but the actual math, it says something entirely different.
Which is one?
The math says we've entered an era of force over rules. The post-Cold War order didn't just crack today. It dissolved. We've shifted from a world of, let's say, cooperation to one of transactional survival.
And the listener needs to understand this because
Because if you think you're watching this from the safety of the audience, you are mistaken. You are on the field, and the game has already changed.
this is Neural Pulse. We're stripping away the everything is fine filter to analyze the collapse. I have a stack of reports here. Financial data, military leaks, diplomatic cables that paint a picture of a polycrisis.
It's a polycrisis, sure. But let's be precise. It's the removal of the safety net. Most people listening are mentally living in 2024. They think there are rules.
But looking at the source material from just the last 24 hours.
It is crystal clear. We are now living in a resource war.
So let's map this out. A convergence of events all hitting a critical peak today. We have the fallout of the U.S. intervention in Venezuela, a market crash triggered by Microsoft, a purge in the Chinese military, and casualty numbers in Ukraine that are just hard to comprehend.
And none of these are isolated incidents. They are the same story, just told in different languages.
Let's start with the geopolitical shift. You flagged this concept in the notes, resource realism.
Yes.
We need to define that. What does that actually mean for the person listening right now?
Resource realism is the term that's going to define the rest of your life. It means the niceties of diplomacy are gone. In the old world, if a nation needed something, they, negotiated. They signed a treaty.
And in this new world,
In this new world, if a nation needs something to survive, energy, high-end chips, whatever, they don't ask. They just take it.
and we have the raw data to support that. Let's unpack the first piece of evidence, the Venezuelan intervention.
This is the textbook definition of it.
The events technically began earlier in January, but the full scope has only just become clear with Secretary of State Marco Rubio's testimony today.
This is the move that signals the empire is back.
Let's look at the facts. U.S. forces facilitated the removal of Nicolas Maduro. Delcy Rodriguez is now the interim president. On the surface, the State Department calls this a restoration of democracy.
Right, but ignore the press release. Follow the money. Where is the oil revenue actually?
That's the kicker. According to Treasury reports, Venezuela's oil revenue is no longer going to Caracas.
So where then?
It's being directed to a U.S.-controlled escrow account in Qatar.
Qatar.
The interim government in Venezuela literally has to submit a monthly budget to Washington for approval.
I want you to really think about the implications of that. A sovereign nation, what used to be one, has to ask permission to pay its police. That is total financial capture.
Rubio was incredibly blunt in his testimony. He stated, and I'm quoting this directly, "We take the oil."
No ambiguity there.
The plan involves a massive revitalization of the sector. The sources indicate a planned investment of $1.18 trillion over the long term, with huge spending boosts in 2026 just to get the pumps working.
We take the oil. It's not about human rights. It's not about nation building. It is about energy security. The U.S. realized it needed the heavy crude in its own hemisphere and just took the checkbook.
The funds released are strictly limited to basic government services, police, health, food. No military spending without U.S. approval.
This is the signal. If the U.S. can do this, the illusion of sovereignty is over for everyone. We are back to empire building. And this logic, it's contagious. Look across the Pacific.
To China, the near-peer competitor.
The one everyone was so worried about. It's rotting from the inside out.
You're referring to the purge. We have confirmed reports today. General Zhang Yuxia, vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, and Liu Zhenli, both removed.
And these aren't just random generals. Zhang was Xi Jinping's childhood friend, a princeling. He was supposed to be untouchable. If he can be purged, no one is safe.
The official charges are serious violations of discipline.
Which is just code for corruption, usually. But the leaks are what matter.
And those leaks are alarming. Allegations of nuclear secrets being passed to the United States.
Worse.
Reports from within the rocket force that missiles were filled with water instead of fuel.
Water in the missiles. Let that sink in. This is the hollow dragon concept. We spent a decade building China up into this high-tech monolith. Turns out the corruption is structural. They were probably siphoning off the fuel budget for years.
The result of this purge is a massive consolidation of power. On the new org chart, only Xi Jinping and one other general remain on the Central Military Commission.
Right. It's been gutted. Now, a lot of analysts will say this makes China weaker and therefore safer for us. Oh, their missiles don't work. We can relax.
That's a misinterpretation.
It's a dangerous misinterpretation.
Why? If their deterrence is compromised, doesn't that lower the threat level?
No. It raises the volatility. A cornered, paranoid leader who just found out his nuclear deterrent might be filled with tap water is not a rational actor. He is humiliated. He is terrified. He is unpredictable.
In a system like that.
It doesn't just crumble quietly. It lashes out to prove it's still dangerous.
Which brings us to the reaction from the U.S. and its allies. They seem to be anticipating that lash out.
They are?
We're seeing a sudden policy shift.
Yeah.
We're calling this data point the nuclear domino.
It's the end of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. The NTT is effectively dead as of this morning.
The specific data point is the Kyungju Agreement. The U.S. has officially allowed South Korea to build nuclear submarines using U.S.-enriched uranium.
For 40 years, Washington said no. They blocked it. They didn't want a nuclear arms race in Asia.
And
Now they're handing over the uranium because they know they can't contain China alone anymore. The U.S. Navy is stretched too thin, so they're outsourcing deterrence.
the plan calls for 4 5,000-ton submarines, and the reaction from Japan was immediate.
Of course it was.
Japan's defense minister, Koizumi, speaking from Yokosuka, publicly stated that nuclear propulsion is an option.
If Korea gets it, Japan must have it. So now we're looking at a nuclearized East Asia. The U.S. isn't the world police anymore. It's the arms dealer for its deputies.
We've covered the geopolitics, Venezuela, China, East Asia. The map has changed. But let's shift the focus.
Yes.
The listener might be looking at a map, but they should be looking at their bank account.
Exactly. Stop looking at the globe. Look at your phone. The macro collapse is becoming a micro disaster. The firewall between global events and your life has just burned down.
The economic indicators from today, January 29th, suggest the safety net for the average investor is gone. A massive market shock centered around Microsoft.
The AI bubble didn't just leak today, it burst.
Let's look at the numbers. Microsoft shares, they plunged 11% in a single session.
For a company that size, that's just a catastrophic destruction of value.
The driver was a mismatch between CapEx, their spending, and profit. They're spending astronomical amounts on AI infrastructure, but the returns.
They aren't materializing fast enough. For 2 years, everyone's retirement plan was basically buy the Magnificent Seven. That was the safe harbor. That logic just broke. If AI doesn't pay off, the market has no floor. Your pension is tied to this speculation.
And it wasn't just equities. The commodities market saw extreme volatility.
That's an understatement. That was pure unadulterated panic.
Gold hit a record $5,600 an ounce. Silver hit $120. Then, within hours, both crashed 4 to 5%.
That movement is specific. When gold spikes like that, it means the smart money thinks the currency is failing. They're fleeing.
But the crash hours later, what does that mean?
It means they got a margin call. They're bleeding out on their other bad bets, probably in tech, and they're forced to sell their only safe asset, their gold, just to cover the cash they owe. That is a heart attack in the financial system.
We also have data from the consumer sector supporting this. LVMH reported sales are down, specifically citing the Chinese market.
The Chinese middle class is tapped out. The global consumer is tapped out. The engine of the global economy is just stalling.
So your portfolio is at risk, but so is your data. This brings us to cyber vulnerability, a confirmed hack of Luxshare Precision.
Most people don't know the name, but I guarantee they own the product.
Luxshare is a primary manufacturer for Apple, iPhones, and the Vision Pro. A group called Ransom Hub claims they stole CAD models, product schematics,
And employee data, not just from Apple, but NVIDIA and Tesla, too. This is the death of the secure supply chain. You have the most valuable companies on Earth, and their IP is being auctioned off because a manufacturer got hit.
And if they can steal the blueprints for the iPhone,
They can steal your data. There is no digital privacy left.
and while the private sector is leaking data, the public sector is demonstrating, well, incompetence.
That's one word for it.
The acting director of CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, accidentally uploaded classified documents to ChatGPT.
It's almost funny if it weren't so terrifying. The people paid to protect you are feeding classified data into a public AI. The people making your phone are compromised. You are naked in the digital space.
We have to address the most kinetic aspect of this collapse, the reality of modern attrition warfare in Ukraine.
It's not a war anymore, it's a meat grinder.
Latest reports indicate total casualties are approaching 2 million.
2 million.
Roughly 1.2 million Russian and 600,000 Ukrainian.
2 million people. That is a number from the 1940s. We convince ourselves modern war was surgical, clean. It's not. It is industrial-scale death.
And the tactics are shifted to infrastructure. Russia is weaponizing winter, targeting heating in Kyiv. 6,000 buildings are without heat.
And Ukraine is responding in kind, hitting Russian refineries, taking out a $100 million radar. They are hitting the money in the eyes.
This is the crucial point. The target isn't the soldier anymore. It's the grid, the refinery, the heating plant.
If it happens there, it can happen here. The grid is the battlefield, and your house is on the front line.
So let's pull all these threads together. The geopolitical order is fragmenting, financial markets are cracking, supply chains are compromised, and warfare is targeting civilian survival.
It creates a vacuum.
Explain that, the vacuum.
The institutions you rely on, banking, police, treaties, they are failing. But more importantly, they're busy trying to save themselves. The U.S. government is busy in Venezuela, the military is busy in Asia, the corporations are trying to save their stock price.
And the implication of that is?
The implication is that no one is looking out for you.
That brings us to the challenge, the assassin's blade, as we call it in this briefing.
The uncomfortable truth. The era of outsourcing your survival is over. You've lived your entire life in a bubble of delegated responsibility. You pay taxes, the government protects you, you put money in a 401k, the market grows it.
It's a service economy of survival.
Exactly. And if those mechanisms fail?
Then what?
When the grid flickers or the currency devalues like we saw with that gold spike, who helps you? When the supply chain breaks and your medication isn't at the pharmacy, who helps you?
The data suggests no one.
No one. That is the point of Neuropulse, to wake you up to the vacuum. When the system fails, the only government left is you.
So the question shifts from analysis to action.
Right. Stop asking, what will they do? Stop waiting for the Federal Reserve or the White House to fix it. Ask, what will I do?
Resource realism applies to the individual.
It does. Are you a victim waiting for a government handout that isn't coming? Or are you the warlord of your own life? Because the world has returned to the state of nature.
The safety net is gone. The illusion is over.
Interpret the silence accordingly.
This has been Neural Pulse. Clarity in a complex world.
Decide your move.